Right, so we are here with Andy Hall, who is the lead writer on Total War Warhammer 2. Nice to meet you. I just played a game and I had a really good time, so I will definitely check this one out. What would you say is the cornerstone of Total War Warhammer 2?
It's about bringing in more races and making sure each of the races plays individually, kind of in an asynchronous design. So with Warhammer 1, what we got a lot of kind of plaudits for, and what people liked was the fact that the Empire, the humans, played very differently to the Orcs. And so we've kind of doubled down on that with this game. So it really is like almost like playing 4 Total War games in one, because the Skaven, you know, you've got to manage your settlements in a very specific way. You've got to harvest warpstone, which is again very different to the lizardmen, who have got to link their geomantic web together. So and then of course you've got the high elves and the dark elves, which are facing each other, as well as all the other races. And they have the dark elves, for instance, have murderous prowess, which means once they start fighting, they get a frenzy on and love it. So each race has a very distinct set of mechanics, which makes them totally different than the other races, which is how it should be. Because in the Warhammer world, it's not like our own history, which obviously we have a lineage of 16 years creating, but humans in our world all pretty much have the same value sets, where our races are very alien, have very different agendas and very different ways of working things, and we're trying to fold that in to Total War. So we have that. And the other side of it is the Vortex campaign, or the Eye of the Vortex, to give it its official kind of narrative title. And narrative is the key word there. So the first campaign you get on release is a very narrative-driven. You're taking part in one of the great stories that unfold in the Warhammer world, and this allows us to kind of tell a story, but allow players to carry on playing in a very sandbox style, but so they feel part of the legend. They feel like they're taking part in one of the big kind of Warhammer novels that you can get. And this allows us to do some very distinct mechanics with rights, which is kind of like campaign-wide spells, and now there's a race to conquer the vortex, the big swirly magical vortex at the heart of the High Elf Island. And this kind of addresses one of the criticisms of past Total War games is when you reach a certain power level and you're the most powerful force on the map, the campaign is effectively over. No one can fight you, no one can take you effectively, and you can just steamroller through, and the rest of the campaign comes a little bit of a grind. Here, you can still play in that style, but you're in a race with the other AI races, the other AI factions. You've got a race to control the vortex, and you do that by taking your ritual currency, which in the Skaven's case is like warpstone. For the High Elf's case, it's warp fragments. So each ritual currency is flavoured to that race, and you've got to basically get as much as this as possible, perform 5 rituals, and these 5 rituals are good story points for us, so we can inject some story into it while also allowing the player to carry on, you know, playing the game how they would like to. This means there's plot tension effectively all through the campaign, if you know what I mean. So even if you are the biggest dog on the pitch, if the Dark Elves are 3 rituals ahead of you, they're probably still going to win the campaign. And therefore this is the first kind of ever Total War campaign where there's a game over screen, because you can actually lose this campaign. So that, I think for players, both veteran and new players, that's kind of a cool thing. There's peril there. You know, you're not just rolling around conquering. You know, you've got to take over the world, but you've got to take over the vortex, or else another race is going to come and steal it from you. So that's a whole new kind of dynamic to the game.
Right, so you have a full-blown tutorial in Total War 2, so even if people did not play the previous games or Total War 1 or Warhammer, they can pick up this game and play it. But to my understanding, you're gonna combine the two games pretty much.
Yeah. So this is it's a sequel. It's a standalone product. If you don't own the first one, you can buy this one and you'll get a full Total War experience. If you've been hanging on for one of your favourite armies like the High Elves or the Dark Elves, you can buy this and have a great, 100, 150 hour plus experience. However, if you do own both games, we will kind of our first patch shortly after release. Can't say when, because we don't know, but shortly, you'll get what we're calling at the moment, name's still in flux, the Grand Campaign. And this will be your chance to do all the stuff I've just said we don't do. There's no narrative there. It is full-on world domination, and if you own all the races, you'll be playing from Warhammer 1, the DLCs that we've had, and Warhammer 2. They'll all be in there, and you'll be able to pick any one of those races and try and conquer the world.
Games Workshop is usually very protective of their IPs. How easy or hard it is to work with them? Do you get your creative freedom, or do you have to stay between the lines?
They're very good with us. I used to work at Games Workshop, so I've kind of been that side of the fence. So I know which buttons we can press. So if we had blue goblins, they would push back on us. But as it is, we don't want to mess around with the IP. We want to bring the Warhammer world to life, and in that respect, they've absolutely let us do whatever we want within the bounds of the world. A great example is we've created a kind of a revivification dinosaur, because we realised that we needed a creature in the Lizardman army that will kind of buff some healing, and so we created a kind of a new unit that's not in the tabletop, but because we did it very very sympathetic to the world, Games Workshop were fine, and that's probably we've done. There's lots of little examples where we've kind of tweaked or handled, because it's not a straight version. We're not just literally taking the tabletop and putting it in a video game form. Total War works in certain ways, and so we have to tweak stuff, and they've been absolutely fine with us doing that.
What would you say was the biggest challenge of the development?
I think, and it's an ongoing thing, it's balance. So because we have this asynchronous design, for instance, Skaven have no cavalry, because they just don't. They don't ride horses or things, so they're lacking that. But that's good. It gives their armies flavour and stuff. The flip side of that coin is we obviously have to make sure it remains balanced, and that Skaven continue to be a viable army even if they haven't got cavalry. Or with the Vampire Counts in Warhammer 1, they didn't have any ranged weapons. And at first there was people going, oh, we've got to give them some ranged things. Got to give them like zombies with bows. And it's like, no. That's their strength. Yeah, and you can overcome that in different ways by, for instance, raising zombies from behind using magic. So balancing is an ongoing challenge. What we do have in our studio, so obviously we have a lot of computers in our studio. We are the biggest UK development studio, which is great. So what we do is whenever we go home at night, our computers, basically everyone's PC auto-tests the game, playing the game faster than we could, millions of battles, thousands of battles, and that gives us massive metadata bundles. This might be really boring for you guys, but our programmers can take that metadata and balance and tweak, and obviously we have external veteran groups as well. And so I would say balance, but we're getting there, but it's always something we're going to be constantly tweaking. Sorry for the long, boring answer.
It's all right. We have some viewers who appreciate this, yeah. Are there any features that you really wanted in the game but then decided to cut it out or not feature?
I mean, so the tabletop rosters are big, and it's always a bit painful to not get every unit in. But you know, we have to deal with a finite budget, and each race is, you know, the animation and concepting budgets are massive, and it takes a lot of man hours to get a rat ogre at fully animated. You know, some of these things have 30 idle animations and 25 attack animations, and all that stuff needs to be hand keyed by professional animators. And so, you know, these games are expensive to make, and so, you know, we can't always get all the units in that we'd like. But looking at like a DLC model allows them to hopefully bring other units back in later dates and stuff like that.
More and more strategy games get released on consoles. Did you ever think about that?
We do, and we constantly think about it. I mean, because of the depth and complexity of Total War, it's very hard to kind of imprint that onto a joypad. I think it's something we're still working on, and maybe one day, hopefully. I mean, we kind of had a good go. Our kind of sister team did with Halo Wars. I think that was received quite well, the control method for that. So that's kind of a stepping stone. But at the moment, I could say that there are no plans to bring it to console yet.
All right, I have one last question. Will we get a chance to try the game before release? Do you have like a beta or something?
No, I mean, we have select veteran groups having a beta, but no, for the general public, it'll be September the 28th.
All right, thank you. Best of luck.